Okay, today we are going to go over importing in height maps into Perfect World, and then getting those prepared for your Dwarf Fortress uh, fun. So, to start off with, you can see an example of a height map here. In computer graphics, a height map or height field is a raster image used to store values such as surface elevation data for display in 3D computer graphics. How you go about obtaining your height map really does not make a difference. The main thing that you have to keep in mind is that you need to scale it to the proper size. Now, I am going to go and get a UK height map. And now I'm going to look through the images, and we're going to change it to large. So right here is a 248 by 248 from Reddit. I'm going to go ahead and take this one. This one looks really good. So we view the image, and as you can see all the valleys and the ridges. The ridges show up, or the peaks in ridges show as white. The valleys are darker in color. A lot of these will have rivers in them, although the game will generate their own river sources. So I actually am really pleased with this. There is the wonderful isle. Yes. So we're going to go ahead and save the image. Where you save it does not really matter. And yes, I like bonsai, but that's not where I'm going to put it. I'm going to put it into my Dwarf Fortress worlds to play with. And I'm going to rename it UK Height Map. Okay, so now that we have that done, we're going to go back into Perfect World. Let me get this a little more centered here. So, again, we're going to go into our YouTube tutorial. Now, we're going to make some changes to this. I'm going to put everything back to ignore on the mesh sizes from the previous tutorial. No, not 2 by 2, ignore. Okay. I'm taking off the main seed because we're not in need of a seed. And then we are going to export this out. And I'm going to close Perfect World. Now, it might seem kind of backwards as to what I'm doing because I technically didn't need to do that. However, I'm keeping that YouTube tutorial as a default setting for a 65 by 65 world, and I'm going to go in and actually create a new one. Worldgen.text. And I'm going to actually try and force this into get it. So I'm actually going to create a new copy of my large region, or actually let's just go ahead and do island because it is part of a larger world set. So we will come in here and copy all that, and again I'm going to go to the bottom. And then we're going to rename it. I'm going to rename it YouTube Island. Now, the important takeaway right now is to watch your dimension size. If this is 257 by 257 or 65 by 65 or 129 by 129. That is what you actually want to export your height map as. So we are going to save this and then close it. And I'm going to do two things here at once. I'm going to open up GIMP, and I'm also going to go ahead and go back into Perfect World. Now, not surprising, Perfect World came up first, so we will go ahead and start preparing Perfect World. And actually GIMP came up too. We're going to go ahead and do GIMP first so that we can get it done and out of the way. So the first thing I'm going to do is come into File, and I'm going to Open. And of course I want to go into, there it is, my Dwarf Fortress folder where I saved the height map. And I want, for some odd reason my scroller does not work right. Either that or it's just super laggy on my system today. And we want the UK height map, and we're going to open that up. So here is this wonderful height map. You can see that it gets kind of grainy as you zoom in. That is not a problem, because with the already generated height map, all we're going to do is scale the image to the size of what our dim or dimension size is. So we're going to go 257. Now, I change my X and Y resolution. It's really questionable as to whether this is really going to give me a lot of data in the long run or not. But if I'm going to try and use something as nice as a 248 by 248 pixel image for my height map, I want to give it the best chance to give me all of those peaks and valleys that I can. So I up my resolution. And then I scale it. And now, we just need to go and do a file and export as. And I like to export out as a PNG. It doesn't really matter what you export it as. You can export it as a TIFF. I think Perfect World can handle that. But I have always just used PNG for most of the stuff that I've done through here. I think that it wants a BMP. We're getting ready to find out. So what we're first going to do is come in and import in our world gen again. Again, I'm in 43.03. I click on my world gen and open that. And then I'm going to take my new parameter set of YouTube Island, and I'm going to select that. Now, I am going to want to use Perfect World for the elevation map. I am personally going to want the rainfall map. The temperature map I may or may not, but I'll go ahead and do it for this instance. Drainage map, volcanism, and savagery. Now we get into the good bit of Perfect World. We've got everything set up to where we're going to use Perfect World for all these map generations. We're going to leave everything here default. Yes, I'm going to go above my normal 125. I'm just going to leave it alone. Because today is about using Perfect World for height maps. So, since we are going to be using it just for the elevation map, we will go, well, starting with the elevation map, we will go to our elevation map, and we want to import in a bitmap. And yes, it defaults to BMP, which is a lot less lossy than some of the other formats that Windows handles. But as you can tell, it will also take in PNG files. So we click on the PNG, and then we go into wherever it is that we saved our image to. In this case, we're going into the UK height map. and then we're going to open that up. Now, I change my view so that we can see it. I'm normally on a larger screen, so I'm only going to go to about 200. I normally do it to 300 or 400. And this is where we start having some fun. So the first thing we're going to do is change the percent below sea level. As you can tell, everything is green. Everything that is ocean is green. It's not what we want. So we need to change a couple of settings, and that's these percent below tree line and percent below sea level. Now, I was clicking up here. I don't know if the mouse shows up or not, but I was clicking until I found a setting that gives me the oceans as they should be, which is the dark blue or black, depending upon how you want to look at it. It looks black to me on my screen. And then from there, I go and use the arrow keys, left and right, to fine-tune it to where I get something a little more realistic to what the world actually, the region actually looks like, because the UK does not look like this. If you want it to look like this, you're more than welcome to change that. This is so that you can have a map that you want to play. When I'm using a real-world height map, want to try and keep it as real-worldish as possible. I'm then going to press Tab to go to the next field, the percent below tree line, and fine-tune that until I get a little bit more of a, again, realistic-looking map. I can take out all the mountains and heights if I want. But I like keeping a lot of that in there. So I'm actually going to go with about 98% on this map. And from there, we are actually done with the elevation portion of this import. We could easily just go ahead and export it. Excuse me. And be completely done using this height map for our world. But let's keep going. Because right now, excuse me, if we look at the biome map, you can see it's okay. It's pretty one-dimensional right now. There's not a lot of variance in the biomes that you get. That's all handled with the rest of the rainfall, the drainage, the temperature, volcanism maps. So we're going to go into those, and again, I'm going to zoom this so that you can have a better view of it in this demo. Now, this you also have a little bit more control over if you don't want it to be necessarily true to life. You can change the wind direction whichever way you want. Okay, I am fairly confident, and we can go and look at the jet stream. So we have winds, and you can tell right here, that go from right to left. So if we look at the jet stream weather for the UK, and we look here, okay, so here's the jet stream in 2003, and this is what it's saying the jet stream is in 2004. So there's a little bit of a shift, but you can see that it's going to cut right across, going from east to westish. So you'd say probably about 64, 70 degrees. So it's going to come right along through here. Then you have a rain shadow map weight. When you click on the generate rain shadow map, you're going to see this image, and you'll see that it becomes really spotchy. That's the algorithm taking into effect all the heights of the height map and using those to generate what's going to have more rainfall than other places. The mountains, of course, will block a good portion of stormy weather from getting to the east side of it, since it's a west to east wind pattern. If we make it, let's do northeast to southwest wind pattern, you'll see this change. Now we're going to have the dark green on the right and the lighter green on the left. So it does a fairly accurate job of depicting where that rain shadow needs to be. And you can change how drastic that rain shadow map is based upon where you have your weight. I don't know if you can really tell on this small of a preview. Now, the next thing we're going to do is come in and do a noise control on it. And this one, right now it's set at weight 9. And you can see that, well, maybe you couldn't, but that really didn't do a whole lot of changing. You can see it just makes like minor little spotchy changes. This actually looks really nice. I hate to change it. If we go to 45, you can see the cloud pattern behind it. And let me drop down. You'll see it a little bit better. So your noise field is just a difference of clouds. And your weight is how effective this noise field is applied to up here. So basically, it will take, in this case, it's got a weight of 6. So it will take just pretty much the highest peaks of that white. And if we change it to 73, it will go pretty deep. You can see it coming through more. It takes it pretty deep into the grays. So you've kind of got to just find a happy medium of what you like and go with that. So I'm going to stop there. One more. There we go. I'm going to stop here. I like the way the islands both look. So I'm going to call this done and then move over to the drainage map. Now I do it in this order simply because I've generated my terrain. I've now generated my rainfall. Well, what does rain have to do? It has to drain. So you have 3 areas here. Let me go back for a second here. Okay. I did not touch on the 3 sliders up here. You have your sliders for percent below, desert, grassland, and forest. That changes these regions, the yellowish green to the darker green regions. So that helps also control what type of biomes you're going to come up across. If I wanted to have more grassland, you just drive this slider down. If I wanted more desert, then this one actually goes up. Because I'm saying that I want 57% of my world to be desert or below. Well, desert is the lowest thing, so it's going to be desert. It really doesn't have a lot of deserty areas, and this is where it is going to break from reality, but that's fine. I'm actually going to do that. So again, this is another aspect of where you have more control over what your world is going to look like than not. And it's all based upon your height maps. So now we're going to go into the drainage, and we're going to the word is not coming to my brain right now, but we are going to help enhance the rainfall, complement the rainfall map that we just made. I'm going to leave these pretty much set the way they are just until I generate a couple of them and kind of get an idea of where my regions are going to fall into. I am going to change the weight a little bit. So we then go, and pardon me, we then go and generate the elevation standard deviation map. Now, if you're not familiar with what the colors are, okay, the lighter color oh, I had that backwards. The darker color are your dunes or swamps. Your next lightest color, the light brown, so this is more like an olive green, a military green, and then you've got your deeper brown, and then you're going to have your lightish tan as your hills. Well, I'm going to leave a fair bit of it as rocky or grass, and then change that to below hills. The rest of it is high mountains. And then I'm going to generate my noise field, and you can see that it does a really good job of randomizing how your drainage is going to appear. Now, drainage is very important for your rivers and your lakes that get generated. So taking some time and getting it to where you get something that looks appealing and is pretty well distributed throughout your world, you will have a much better chance at getting good rivers, good oceans, good lakes, and it just makes your world look that much more realistic. Now, we're actually going to go and look at the biome map to see what our changes have done. And now, if you look, the map looks a lot more varied and diverse. So it looks like we're going to have some deserts in through here, good forest and grasslands. So I'm really digging this map. I really like the way that it's turning out. Now we go in and we work on the temperature. Again, you have a gradient slope. I'm going to set it to roughly, well, no, it doesn't get set the same. Okay, so we're going to do a linear, and we're going to do a gradient center point. And our gradient center point is actually going to be down at the bottom. Now, the reason I'm doing that is because I know that down here is the South Pole, up here is or down below to the south is the equator, and up above is the North Pole. So I then go and generate, but you can tell it's backwards. So when I click down here, it put the cold region at the bottom. Well, you can simply invert the data, and that makes it a lot more realistic. Now, there is a slight difference because the southern part of the UK is not scorching heat. So we can slide our slider here, and you can see that deep red became really thin. I'm going to leave a little bit of it as scorching simply because we can do that. And again, the same thing with the hot and the warm. Now, a good portion of the world, well, of the UK, is going to be a little bit more on the warm side, or cold side, sorry. So I'm actually going to do my distribution about like this. It's not completely accurate, but it fits a little bit more with my remembrance of being over in the UK, in England. Whether it actually is or not, it's been a long time. So we've got our gradient made. Now we're going to generate our noise field. And again, as you can see, it just generates and varies the edges so they're not so harsh. you can change this to whatever you want. If you want something really wacky, you can make it really wacky. If you want to do a linear or a radial, you can do the same. You can do whatever you feel like. I am going to keep it pretty much where it was, and click on the generate new noise field a couple of times. I'm going to leave it there. So now we have our elevation, our rainfall, our drainage, and our temperatures all dealt with. We only have two more maps that we really have to worry about, and that is the volcanism and the savagery. So on the volcanism, you have your %0, below 0, below igneous extrusive, and below volcano. Change these however you feel like. You can also change your elevation cusp map. And what you're going to do, first off, I would just use what's default. So if you click on the generate elevation cusp map, and I'm going to zoom in a lot more, you can see that the highest peaks are the only ones that really have any chance of a volcano forming on them, which makes sense. Most of our volcanoes are of a mountain. We do have some, like they're, doomsdayers are saying that Yellowstone Park, the Old Faithful, is actually a volcano waiting to erupt. We have them at lower altitudes. We have most of them at the higher altitudes. So this is where you can come in and change your settings a little bit. And let's bring the higher elevation cusp. There we go. I don't want it that low. So I just move my higher elevation and my lower elevation cusps a little bit until I get a little bit more options at volcanoes being generated. Because remember, this is Dwarf Fortress in the long run. So having the volcanoes is much more wanted than not. Now, with a height map, I do not generate a noise field because it really throws things into, in my opinion, complete unbelievability. It will make volcanoes appear just willy-nilly here or there. That's not what I'm after. I want it to fit my terrain. So I want it to fit the height map that I've generated and leave it at that. So we're now done with the volcanism map, and we go into savagery. You have a few options in savagery. Your gradient types, you can either have a savage east, that will be over here primarily, so it'll do a gradient from right to left. Wild west, which is the opposite, from left to right. Heart of savagery, or surrounded. I always do heart of savagery. And then I pick an area on the map, let's say here, that I want my world to have the most savagery type areas. I then go and generate my savagery gradient map, and I look and see if I've got a good distribution here. Well, for this map, I think that my heart is a little too high. So I'm going to move the percent below. Nope, wrong one. The percent below neutral, I'm going to raise that up a little bit until I have a nice circle that is a little more realistic. And then I change the other one accordingly. Now this is going to be changed a little bit when I go and generate my noise field. When you generate the noise field, it again bases everything upon the difference of clouds that it's generated below. So as you can see, it allows it to kind of spill out. So this one here breaks up and goes up a little bit. And if you look right here, it's following this chain of the clouds. So you can come in and change this a little bit to make it more varied or less varied. And you can change the feature size as well. You can make it more blobby or more sporadic. And again, with the smoothness, you can smooth it out or make it more jagged, and that affects more of the edge. I typically leave those two around 50, the feature size and the smoothness, and then base everything upon my weight, and then come up and adjust my regions a little bit more as I see fit. So I'm going to change both of these. And again, I'm fine-tuning using the arrow keys. Then let's generate a couple new noise fields until we get something a little more. I like that one a lot better. So with just a few keystrokes, a few clicks, and a height map that you've already downloaded, you've got a world already generated. We can come in and look at our biome map again. And you can see now it has an ice cap. And it's changed the biomes completely by having the elevation, rainfall, drainage, and temperature maps generated. Those all go into how your biomes are created. The only thing we have left to do now is come over, make sure that the perfect world generated maps that we want to use are selected, which we're going to use everything this time, and we export out our world gen. Now we get to go and look at our world. And let me get it back into the center here. And voila. I think we're good. Alright, so now we're going to go back in and design a world with advanced parameters. And we're going to pick our YouTube island. And if you've done everything the way that I've suggested, you're going to see that you're going to see that you don't have very many rejected sites. I have none. Or was that in the embarking? No, it was right here. So I have no rejected sites in this world creation. I find that rather pleasing. I've taken a map, imported it in for Dwarf Fortress to use, and I am now going to be able to play my own Middle Earth or whatever the land for the Game of Thrones is. You can go and pick a world from your favorite game. If you wanted to play on a WoW map, you could go and get that height map. I'm sure it's out there. If you wanted to play on a EverQuest map, or you just wanted to draw a single white circle, you can do pretty much whatever you want from here on out using height maps and get a world that you enjoy playing or want to play over a different history of. For example, the UK is now going to be controlled by who know what. It could be dwarves, could be gnomes, it could be goblins, could be elves, humans. We will find out when this age of myth is done being created. So what I'm actually going to do here is actually take a pause while it finishes generating the years. It's going to take a while, and then come back and we will continue from here. Alright, so that finished, and this world is called the Dark Goblin Pits of whatever the name is, or the Ignited Jungles is the region that I am currently in. So let's go and take a quick peek around. Oh, it's not done. I thought it was done. So you know what? We're gonna stop here. Sorry. I'm too impatient for 1,000 years to go by. Come on, world, stop. Planets of Soul. There we go. And stuff is falling all around me. Alright, so this is our world. Got a good portion of dwarves, humans, elves. Looks like some goblins and likely kobolds. I thought I saw a tower down in here somewhere. Oh, right there's a tower. We got 2 towers. So we got a couple towers. Now, I'm not really seeing any kind of volcano activity. So that is something that I will likely go back and adjust later so that I can... Oh, there's one. Out in the middle of the ocean. Well, at least that's somewhat realistic since UK does not have a volcano on it. So we are going to go ahead and use the world as it currently exists. It will export everything. It went and finished the historical figures and deaths and other events. And now we get to export it. So that is, in a nutshell, how you use a height map. A height map, a grayscale map, with Perfect World to create your elevation map by changing the 2 sliders here, leaving your turbulence field alone, because once you start messing with this, you will get a completely different landmass. When you're importing in, and that will be another tutorial, is how to use Perfect World to do your land within Perfect World. That will be relatively quick since we've pretty much covered everything else, but it will be worth an exercise to go through. But once you import in your height map, do not mess with anything below the import bitmap. You want to only mess with the percent below sea level and percent below tree line. And if you want to fill in the ocean smaller than 600 units. So once you've done that, you can then go and edit your rainfall map. Again, you can change your desert, grassland, and forest thresholds. You do want to generate the rain shadow map and the noise field. You pick your wind direction, and then you get something that's relatively realistic. You don't have to do a temperature map. You don't have to do a rainfall map. If you really want to let Dwarf Fortress take over and do everything except for your elevation, you are perfectly able to do that. You would just select elevation map, leave the rest of them. Here, I'll show you with the large region. I'm not going to save it. But you would pick elevation map, and you can see that it changes it to elevation using Perfect World. And everything else does not have a preset. So has preset is all no for everything else. And that means that Dwarf Fortress will take over the control and generation of those particular maps. So in a nutshell, you import in your elevation map, and then you set the other maps as you want, if you want. You can go back and look at your biome map and see. It's a little off right now because we're on a different... Whoops, no, I don't want to delete large region. We're on a different parameter set. So we'll go back in and change all those back, and then look at the biome map. You can look at the biome map and get kind of a feel for how your biomes are going to look, and adjust it after that, and you will come up with some really neat and unique worlds that you will be able to play. So the next time we are going to come in and just use Perfect World only on the YouTube tutorial to generate the landmass, and that should be the last one. So until next time, see ya.